Hello there! From Between the Yellow Lines, this is the first episode of Trammin Plus, an unscheduled stop.
Today, we'll be talking to Matthew Serrano, the director of Live from the Space Stage, a Halyx Story.
Hello, that's me.
All right, so lights.
Camera.
Action.
Hello everyone, Trammin has come to an unscheduled stop. Join Kirk and Rain on Trammin Plus for unexpected journeys to nowhere in particular. Please remain seated as we will begin moving shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, this tram is ready to depart. Driver, you are clear.
All right, welcome to Trammin Plus, everyone. Now that the cheesy intro is over, we're going to have a really cool episode. So today we have Matthew Serrano, director of Live from the Space Stage, a Helix Story, which was featured, well, it was featured on the Defunctland channel.
Yeah.
But
Distributed.
Yeah, or produced.
Manufactured.
I heard Brad Pitt was involved somehow.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's producing every movie these days.
So, all right, let's start with you. Where did you start in filmmaking? Let's say.
Good question. It's weird how my journey as an artist has changed so much over time, because you know how it is when you're a kid. You're like, I want to grow up to be Superman, and then you're like, I want to grow up to be a president. It changes, you know. So for me, it's always kind of been on the same path of creative and storytelling, but it's changed over time. It started off me watching the old Disney cartoons and thinking I'm going to be an animator, or I think it started even earlier than that. I wanted to be an illustrator, and then it transitioned into animator, and then I started getting into Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli movies, and I thought, no, there's something more here. I want to be a storyteller, whatever this is, whether it's writing a book or writing scripts for these movies, I want to be a storyteller. Then I remember watching Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time at a beautiful age to watch that movie. It was 11 or 12.
Yeah,
that's
being spot on.
Mind blown, thinking this is the coolest movie ever. This is what I want to do. I want to make movies. And then I think around that time, I got my hold on the special edition trilogy box set for Star Wars. And so I just watched over and over and over again the, I can't remember what it's called, something making the Force. It's on Disney Plus. It's an amazing documentary that covers the making of the original trilogy.
I saw, I think it's called Empire. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, Empire of Dreams.
There you go.
That's what it's called.
Wow.
Empire of Dreams. And then from there, at some point, I played soccer all my childhood, and I thought that's what I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to be a world-class soccer player. And I think at some point I was thinking, well, I want to get into filmmaking or making videos or whatever, even if it's just playing with a camera or editing. I want to get into that. And at my middle school, they had a TV production class in 8th grade. So I did that. It was really fun. I got really, really into making YouTube videos and little sketches for the TV broadcast at the school. And at the end of the year, we went on a class end of year field trip to Universal Studios Hollywood. And to kind of paint the picture of what Universal Studios Hollywood was when I went for my first time, it was the last month of T2 3D.
Oh, wow. All right.
So slipped right in on that. Transformers was fairly new. Fast and Furious wasn't a full experience in the tram tour. It was a bunch of dancing cars.
On the little.
I
remember that.
And there was no Harry Potter.
No Harry Potter. Yeah.
So, and also there was no Walking Dead. There was whatever that Monster Maze was that they had right before it became Walking Dead. So I went around that time. And that completely sealed the deal, because I had gone up to LA to visit family and stuff like that, but I'd never really done a movie studio tour or anything like that. And so imagine me, someone who is a geek about bonus features on DVDs, who just, it didn't matter what movie I watched, I would watch every single bonus feature for every single movie a million times. And then finally going to this place and thinking like, oh my God, like this place is real.
It's the ultimate
This
bonus
exists.
feature.
This exists, and
Yeah.
like all these people are here, and like this is where they all come to work on this, on these movies and stuff. Like completely sealed the deal. And so from there, I slowly started to do stuff in high school. Started dual enrolling at a community college like halfway through high school, because I learned like, hey, if you start doing these college classes now while you're in high school, you don't have to pay for them. It's this program that that school was doing. So I was like, sign me up, because at that point I was done with high school. I didn't care about anything else. I was like, I want to get my hands on some real film equipment. So I did that. And what was interesting is while I was doing college courses, I think I did about 3 or 4 years there at that community college. I did so many classes that I went way over what I needed to get just my AA degree. And I remember like I had like a semester left to finish my general ed. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do just general ed. Like, I want to make the most of my time here. Let me take a film class while I'm here. And it was my mom who suggested it. She was looking through the class list and she was like, why don't you take documentary? And at the time I was like, nah, that's not real movies. Those aren't real filmmakers. Like the most like the worst, like I cringed thinking that like that was how I really thought. But like in all honesty, I really thought like that, because at that point I hadn't seen any good documentaries.
And you wanted to make Raiders, right? Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I'm in it to make Raiders. I'm in it to blow stuff up. I'm not in it to film real people. Come on. But I did that class, and that semester I really got into documentary filmmaking. I found a love for it. I realized how similar it is to, someone once told me documentary filmmaking has the most in common with script writing. And it's really true. It's so, you're so like locked in on fine minute details of story and characters and all these things that you would focus on if you were writing a screenplay. And it's crazy to think that now, after all these documentaries that I've made and now making my first feature documentary, I had an idea for a short film script for 4 years that I never even tried writing. And the second I was done with Halyx, I was like, let me go back to that short film script. And I wrote it in like 2 days.
That's awesome.
Which beforehand, it was the worst writer's block. Like if I ever had an idea for a script, I would sit there for an hour and I would write one sentence.
Yeah, it's like, I don't write things too creatively, but then
you're pretty good.
No,
you're way better than I am.
I mean like creative writing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But then I've gotten there with like the show, right? Where like I write an outline, and sometimes it's like a couple weeks, I'm just like pulling, like not phoning it in, but it's like really grasping at straws. Like, what can I do?
Sure.
But then you get that moment where you're like, oh, it clicked, and you have to write it down then, because then it's like it's gonna escape me. Like, let's go, and then I write the whole thing like on my phone, and obviously not even close to the same. But like I get that where you just
no,
like,
but that's what I do too. Yeah. That's what I do too. I'm like red guy beef butt bubble, and I'm like, I'll know what that means later.
So then how did the whole Halyx, we're just gonna refer to it as Halyx just because that long title, but for everyone out there, live from the space stage, a Halyx story, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But how did the Halyx thing start? What was like the spark?
Well, you kind of have to go back to the documentary that I made before that, which was Remain Seated, Please, a Hoot and Chief story. I promise the next film I make is going to be one word. I promise. I was in a weird time where I was kind of just in a weird limbo of working on projects, and like I couldn't do anything with any of the current projects I was working on. So I was sitting around like creatively just like frustrated. Like I had just done like a film festival run with a film that I thought was going to be big, and then nothing came out of it at all. And I was really frustrated at that because, all of this time I've heard like, just get into film festivals. And if you do really well, like things will happen for you. And then I did really well and nothing happened for me. So I'm
Yeah.
like sitting around like, what do I do? And I remember thinking back on an old website that I had come across like years ago called Mesa Verde Times. And it was a blog run by these two guys who go by the names of Hoot and Chief. And their whole gimmick is that they are the Horizons mega fans.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember talking to one of my composers, Jordan Niscara, who's a huge Disney theme park fan, and he's a huge fan of the Disney theme park music. And I remember he was like, what's like your favorite music from a theme park? Anything. Could be a land or attraction or whatever. I was like, well, Horizons, if you literally look up like Horizons Epcot music, you'll find an hour and a half of just all original score written just for the ride and the area surrounding it. And it's amazing. It's
Okay.
so good. And so he was like, yeah, man, like I really should get more into this Horizon stuff. And I told him about the blog. And I was like, yeah, and their whole gimmick too is like they would get out of the ride vehicles and they would run around and film things and take photos of stuff. I was like, really? I was like, yeah, you got to see it to believe it. And then that got me thinking after that conversation. I remember it was like the middle of the night. And I was like, wait, they have a YouTube channel where they uploaded all of this footage from all these adventures. And when you watch it, when you just click a random video, it seems kind of incoherent. But I started to think like, it would be nice if there was like a guide where you can kind of go through and you can kind of have your hand held and you can kind of see, you know, you can have someone tell you like what everything is and where you are and what's going on and all that stuff. And then I remember going on the YouTube channel, and this is a spoiler, a huge spoiler for that documentary. But I remember going on their YouTube channel and seeing that the last upload on the YouTube channel was of Hoot going to Walt Disney World and burying Chief's ashes
Jeez.
because
Jeez,
Chief
man.
had passed away from cancer
Wow.
back in I think 2011 or 2014, around that time.
Oh wow.
And I remember getting choked up watching, him say goodbye to his friend and all that stuff. And I remember it was like the movie gods were came floating down from the heavens and whispered in my ear, there is a story here. And immediately I was like, you know what? Screw just watching all this stuff. Let me just, because I was in like a documentary mode. I was like, let me catalog all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I started going through all the blogs, all their videos, and cataloging everything. And I came up with the story, and it ended up being Remain Seated Please, this documentary. And I put it up on a YouTube channel with 0 subscribers. I literally created a brand new YouTube channel and put it up, and I shared it on like 3 subreddits. And that month it got like 100,000 views. It went semi-viral. Literally every cast member at Disneyland and Walt Disney World was watching it and sharing it on Facebook. It was crazy. It reached like the top of like multiple subreddits, and one of the subreddits that it was the top of the month, the top post of the month on, was Defunctland.
Oh wow. Okay.
So if you want to get someone's attention, be the top video on their subreddit for a month.
Yeah.
That'll get their attention. But what's funny is I had messaged Kevin in the past before, because I work with the Orange County Archives sometimes, helping them digitize their collection of like Disney theme park stuff that they have, and just in general theme parks in general. And so I'd reach out to Kevin about that. Like, if you're interested, there's footage here that no one's ever seen. And so he remembered me from those conversations, and then suddenly was like, wait, you're the guy who made this. We should do something together. So we agreed upon making a 45-minute video for the Defunctland YouTube channel. We had no idea what it was going to be on, but that was the agreement, was like, let's make a 45-minute video, and we'll like film interviews and stuff like that. And so we had like 3 Skype calls, I remember, where we sat there in silence for like 2-3 hours. And I remember I would just scroll and scroll and scroll forever on r/obscure media, trying to find like any interesting, like, oh, maybe we can make a doc about this random thing. And he threw out some ideas to me, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe we can make something out of that. I don't know. And so, it was like 6 hours worth of talking over the course of like 2 different Skype calls. And then finally, we had this third Skype call, and that call lasted 10 minutes.
Wow.
Because immediately I was like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" Just like scrolling. And then all of a sudden I just hear him like, like he just starts giggling. I thought,
Gotta be scary.
oh my God, we've been scrolling.
He's lost it.
We've been scrolling for way too long. He's lost it. And he goes, "Do you know what Halyx is?" I'm like, "Halyx?" He goes, "Go on Google right now and type in Halyx." I was like, "How do you even spell that?" And then I look it up, and the first thing that I see is the Helix poster. And I remember like sitting there like, what is this? Because what immediately grabbed my attention is the fact that, clearly it's a knockoff.
Right,
Clearly.
right.
From the second I looked at it, I was like, this is a knockoff. But what's interesting is like how much effort it appears went into this project. And the thing is, like, at least the way my brain works is when I think knockoff, I associate that with low effort. So that intrigued me, the fact that this was a knockoff with a lot of effort put into it, and it was done by Disney. And how have I never heard about this? My favorite land when I was a kid was Star Wars, or was Tomorrowland. I love Star Wars. I love 80s rock and roll. I love Disneyland.
It's everything.
How have I never heard of this? This is crazy. And from that conversation, we talked about it. We saw that there was one blog post written about it with limited information. We came up with a list of names. Spoilers for this documentary. We found out immediately that Laura had died years ago. And immediately I was thinking, wait, hold on a second. Like, are we sure about this? There's nothing available on the internet. I doubt that I'll be able to find anything off of YouTube. And we already know that one person is dead. And this is something from 40 years ago. And he goes, nope, this is what you're doing. And I remember exactly what he said. He said, "You're getting the band back together."
Well, that's cool.
That's like his favorite thing.
And then hung up. That was that.
So all the footage and everything that you guys had, that's all. How did you get that then? If you said it's not like on the internet, or is it like literally through the band members? Because I saw one of them like showing you pictures.
Yeah, because what happened was we slowly started to get stuff. Like all that was available online was there were 3 audio recordings available on YouTube. They were just live recordings. They weren't even from the album. And then there was, whatever concept art got uploaded by Jim Magon, and probably in total like 7 photos, and that was it. And they're all from the blog post, and they were just, and anything else that was reported on any websites were just reposts of that poster scan or anything from Jim's blog. So that was it. 3 audio recordings, 7 photos. So slowly I got in contact with more people involved with the band, actual band members. And I remember like the first big, like, oh snap, like, this is huge new material that no one has ever heard before, was when we got in contact with Bambi Moe, who worked on the project behind the scenes. She had,
what a name, by the way.
Oh, I know. Oh, I've got a story about Bambi I'll tell in a sec. But she's amazing. She's a good friend now. She pulled out. She was like, I went searching through my personal archives, and she pulled out this tape, and it's what you see in the documentary. It was the original "Hey There Boys" demo tape, which was one of the songs that they performed. And that was amazing for us because we were like, if we never find the album, if we never find any recordings for the album, this is as close as we can get. And that was exciting to us. And then she also had like 20 something photos. But, for a long time, like I want to say like 5-6 months, we got to the point where I was having a conversation with Kevin about like, hey, should we set aside a huge amount of budget for animation to recreate like all of this stuff? Because like we only have like now 20 photos. We got some audio recordings, and like the interviews were going well, but it's like, it's kind of hard for people to visualize this, And then we interviewed, I don't know if you can see back there, I have a little plushy Baharnit bassist. Plus, that was a gift from my girlfriend. Um, we finally got in contact with the bassist, and then he got us in contact with the drummer, because I remember thinking, okay, Brian Lucas. I looked him up on Facebook. There were a million old white guys named Brian Lucas. So I was like, dude, which one is it?
Yeah.
And he was like, that one. And then when I got in contact with the right Brian Lucas over Facebook, I remember I messaged him, and he went, Halyx, what good memories. And then he said, he threw this out of nowhere. He said, I was just watching the tape the other day, and my heart stopped.
Wow.
Like life-changing, like genuinely life-changing moment where I was like, what did you just say? And he was like, I was just watching the tape. I have a tape of Halyx performance footage, probably the last remaining footage of the band in existence. Because we know of one other place where the footage can be, and it is definitely destroyed by now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really scary process of having that tape sent over, because it was a little high 8 tape storing 50 minutes of footage. And by the way, he proceeded to tell me that the person who filmed all of the footage was his, at the time, little 8-year-old brother.
Wow.
Who came to see his older brother playing in a Star Wars band at Disneyland, and brought the high 8 camera and sat there and did all of the perfect zooms and kept a steady hand. And
this is what it was 1981, right?
It was 1981. And so that performance footage was from one night, because they did 2 sets like every night. I think they did like 5 days out of the week or something like that. But and you can hear actually, like at one point in the footage, and I included it in the documentary, where they go like, Halyx will be back at 10 and 11 or something like that. So maybe they did like 3 performances a night. But anyways, the only other crazy thing that happened, like significant thing that happened with like archival material, was I was put in contact by someone I was trying to talk to, who was like a Halyx fan, who said, who's something that you should really talk to. And he directed me over to this guy who was like, not the band's official photographer. He was like the band's self-proclaimed official photographer. He was just one of the fans who was there like all the time. But conveniently, this guy was in school, I believe, for like photography. And so just as a side project, he was like, I'm going to be this band's concert photographer. He gave me almost 400 high quality scans of the band that he took that summer for free.
Wow. That's not the guy in the doc, is it? The like
No, he wasn't interviewed in the documentary.
That's insane.
But,
400 images. Wow.
That and the footage really made the documentary.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Wow. It's funny. It's like you were talking about how you were worried about, like, not even worried, just like, I don't want to do documentaries. And one great thing about the Halyx documentary is the way it all unfolds. Dude, you're a storyteller, man. Like the way you're unfolding, just like how you're getting to just like I'm sure you told the story before, but it's like, the next page and we're like, whoa, like, we came in blind kind of on purpose. Like we know, I mean, we watched the doc, we know what's up, but like, we didn't really talk to you beforehand. It's like, I want to hear this here. And, so I do want to say that. I do want to quickly throw,
thank you.
I do want to quickly throw shade at my brother, Kev, who listens to the show, who, we met the band Capital Cities because like no one went to see them and we saw them. And I had a nice camera phone.
Safe and sound, right?
Yeah.
Oh, those guys.
I had a nice camera phone.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even take like a non-grainy red eye picture of me. and this guy's 8-year-old brother with like a 1981
documentary level archival
camera.
footage.
Yeah. So okay. So you got all the footage. Now what? Oh, come on, Siri. Okay, so you got the footage, and at this point, was it still the 45-minute doc?
Okay.
When did that change? When was the big like, oh, there's something
more?
That's a good
question.
Yeah.
That's a good question, and I have the answer. It's a good answer too. So we had done most of the interviews that we had. Like we had pretty much fulfilled our entire wish list at that point. After this point, after the point of the aha moment of like deciding it's going to be a feature, we were able to get Gary Kreider and Mike Post, which blew us away. And everyone that we told was like, what? Like mind blown that we got them to be in the documentary. Because they were like, oh, there's no way we're going to get them in the doc, but we needed to, because they are the guys who like, were the ones behind everything. So those two, and I think that's pretty much it. And then our first interview, the guy that you see in the beginning, who is a fan, who has a poster. So all of them, we filmed after. So the last two interviews that we had lined up before we were like, okay, this is going to be basically a done deal and we're done with this documentary, was we needed Tom Miller, who is the keyboard player, and then we needed Bruce Gowdy, which Tom helped us get Bruce Gowdy because he was being weird, and Bruce Gowdy's like a little bit of a diva. I'm sure he's not going to listen to this. He's a little bit of a diva. He was a guitarist, and he was impossible to get a hold of. And even now, I haven't heard a response from him about anything since October of 2019. So who knows if he's seen the documentary. So anyways, sorry to throw some shade, Bruce. But anyways, so I talked with Tom Miller over the phone, and we had a conversation, and some information came up in that conversation that blew my mind. And I remember immediately coming to Kevin with this, because he revealed to me in that phone call that he and Laura were married at the time of Halyx, and that because of Halyx ending, they got a divorce. And just that alone, I remember I talked to Kevin about it, and he was like, now we have a feature. Because it's surpassed just another Defunctland episode, because every Defunctland episode, more or less, is here's a thing that used to be a thing, here it is when it was, here it is being created, here it is being a thing, and then why it's no more, and that's it. There's not really human stories woven into that, rarely, because there's nothing too complicated about a lot of these things. It's just rides come and go, theme parks come and go, like that's the industry, that's life. But having this aspect to the story, having Laura's story, completely changed everything. And so from there, and then also, everything kind of came together at once a couple of months in, where, we had our hands on the footage and we were like, this looks amazing. And we had that. And we thought, you know what, let's make it a feature. When we're done filming, what we initially thought we would be done filming, we'll go to Indiegogo and we'll raise money so that we can get some more interviews going and, put some serious production into this to make it a feature. So that was the moment right there, that we decided that it would be a feature.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, excuse me. So, I'm sorry, I forgot the husband. What was his name?
Tom.
There are a lot of names.
Yeah.
I totally watched it. I was enamored by this.
A lot of names.
Yeah, I was enamored by this whole thing. But so how did you get, how did the conversations go with the people who worked for Disney? Like, how'd you get in contact with them, and how were they excited? Were they like how did that even?
Well, what's funny is that a lot of people in the doc, they I guess it was different back then, because they said like, oh, I just called Disney and asked for Bambi, and they just gave them like the info. But I could only imagine you getting in contact with some of these people. It's not as easy as calling somebody and be like, give me Bambi.
So, it's interesting how I got in contact with different people. For Bambi, I remember I tried finding like all sorts of ways to contact her, and it was actually LinkedIn. There were two ways that I thought I would get to her. There was LinkedIn, and another one was Susan Egan, the actress who played, I believe she was Belle on Broadway, and then she's also Meg in Hercules. Is a friend of Bambi's, and I was like, I've interviewed Susan Egan before for like a job a long time ago. Maybe I can send her a Facebook message and she will somehow see it. And then I sent a message to Bambi on LinkedIn. It was funny. The same night, they both got back to me.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, no, thank you, Susan. Thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. You're good.
Funny story. That's how I found you. Is I found you on LinkedIn. True story. True story.
I talk too much trash about LinkedIn, and now I'm like, do I need to
emails?
rethink this? Like,
Dude, I'm telling you, hit up Bob Iger on LinkedIn. No, I don't.
Add him to your network.
But the other ones, like, I'm trying to think of who else. Jim Agon was easy. Jim Agon was just like, here's his email on the blog, boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Kreider was hard because I remember everyone in the band, and especially Bambi, was like, you need to get Gary Kreider. You need to get him. And I was like, how? And I tried every way of contacting him, and I could not find a contact for him. So what happened was Bambi and Jim did in 2019 a Comic-Con panel for like Mickey Mouse Disco.
Wow.
And
that's a cool panel. Wow. Okay.
On the like bus ride there, Bambi was talking with somebody who used to be like Gary Kreisel's assistant, I guess. And she was like, okay, well, like, do you have his contact information? And so she got the contact information from there. And then, you know, from there, I was able to, at the time we had put out the Indiegogo trailer. So I sent it to him, and then we got him in the movie, and he was really great. He was super nice. And it was so funny. He thought that I was the one that made the Captain EO doc on Defunctland's YouTube channel, because what I did was I was like, I sent him one of the emails or texts or whatever it was that I sent him was I was like, here's an example of my work, and I sent Remain Seated Please. And then underneath that, I sent, and here's an example of the channel's work, and I sent the Captain EO doc, because just whatever. Or actually, no, I just sent the Defunctland channel, but he picked the Captain EO doc to watch because he was one of the guys that worked behind the scenes on Captain EO on getting Michael Jackson to be in it. So I remember I'm in his Malibu like beach house, and he's like, first of all, a couple of things I want to correct in the Captain EO documentary. And he starts talking to me about conversations with George Lucas and Michael Jackson. And I'm like, I don't want to correct him, because I'm like, this is amazing. Like, everything he's telling me is incredible. And then finally I was like, that's amazing, but I'm not the guy who made the Captain EO doc. And he goes, oh, I just wanted to correct the information. Yeah, anyways, your other doc was amazing. And we talked about that for a bit. But the Mike Post one is really random. The Mike Post one, I remember I was sitting in my composer's house talking about like the interviews, and I remember telling him like, oh man, and like the one person we really want to get now is Mike Post, but like we have no way of contacting him. We've tried all these ways, contacting, you know, his assistants, his PR people, whoever, and like we can't get in contact with them. And this is, for anyone listening, this is exactly how Hollywood works. Hear me out. So my composer Jordan was like, my mom's friend, like, knows Mike Post, like either like for whatever reason, I can't remember, like whether she was like his lawyer or something. And so I talked to my composer, who talked to his mom, who talked to her friend, who talked to Mike Post, and then that's how we got Mike Post in the movie.
Got it.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's just you just know the right person. Just
you gotta, you know who you know.
Oh yeah, like our friend Gene is like kind of he's sneaking his way into the movie industry, and right now he's just like, oh, I'm a COVID compliance officer. I'm like, dude, they're gonna remember they gave you a mask, and boom, that's it. Like in the future, like, oh, remember that? Remember the crazy time in our lives? Like, yeah. But what I was thinking too is, it's like, oh, how'd you like, what, like, how did they agree to talk or whatever? But then it's also like, you think of, in a way, they're cast members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are really passionate about what they do. Where even like, you said you walked into his house and he started correcting the Captain EO thing, where it's like, oh, this was just like, everything they do is so important to them. It's not
because I forgot that was part of your question, to address the fact of like, like how did they agree to this? Every single person, from top level exec Gary Kreider to guy in the frog costume Tony Coppola, every single one of them had the exact same reaction when I said, hi, I'm making a documentary about Halyx. They all just sat there for 1 second, then started laughing and said, "Oh yeah, Helix, I remember that. Sure." Like without question.
That is so cool.
If I was like, like, "Hey, Gary Kreider, do you want to talk about creating Disney TV animation with Michael Eisner?" He'd be like, "Well, I have to talk to a couple of people." No, me mentioning Halyx, it was like a light bulb lit off in every single one of them.
Wow.
Because imagine 40 years ago, you did this crazy project and then you don't talk about it for 40 years.
Yeah.
So
Everyone 100% was game. But that being said, the really sad part of that was every single phone call that I had, every single person asked, "How's Laura doing?"
Oh man.
I had
oh,
to break the news to everyone.
Jeez. Yeah.
wow.
There's a lot of people I interviewed in this documentary. There's a lot of people. That's a lot of people you have to break to, saying
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, your old friend, your old coworker." Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, I've actually in a way been in a similar situation, and it was like I had to tell like 10 people that their coworker passed away, and it's like it's the same every time. Like
Every
the
time.
first one and the 10th one, just like your heart stops for a second. You got to give them a second, and then you just got to like let them react to you.
Yeah.
And you're not close to them, right? And it's like,
I don't know if it was just like movie magic or what, but it didn't even register that she hadn't been interviewed in my head throughout the whole documentary. So right at the end, when you find that out, I was like, "Oh man,
there
we talked about Laura the whole time, and I never realized." And yeah,
there
that
was some point
man.
where I was like, oh no, like is what I'm thinking true, right? Because it's like there is
Yeah.
a reason
Mhm.
she hasn't been interviewed, and yeah, that's really rough.
Yeah,
But
That was hard to balance because we literally we did a million cuts of this movie. And one of the things that we addressed was like a big problem was, and it's weird, it was never a problem with anyone that I showed it to, but it was always a problem with anyone that Kevin showed it to, where at different points in the movie, different people would turn to him and go, "She's dead."
Mm.
Like it was something, it would be something that someone says, or the way that someone would say something. It would like at the 30-minute mark, at the 45-minute mark, at the 50-minute mark, someone would turn and go, "She's dead, isn't she?" Or "She's dead." And so those reactions actually helped us kind of like get rid of stuff like that. Because basically my kind of goal from the beginning was I wanted to make a documentary that was started off as, "What is this? Like, this is so weird," and like, laugh at this. Like, it's okay. You can laugh at this, make fun of this goofy thing. And then halfway through, get you hooked. Like, no, this is the sickest thing. This is the coolest thing ever. And then by the end, you're crying. And so our hope was you would be so distracted by, we would just throw so many things at you of just like, "Yeah, Laura was an amazing singer. Anyways, here's the Wookiee bassist slamming his bass to the ground," before you can think about, "Hey, wait a second, why hasn't she been interviewed?" Like, like
That was me. That
like,
was me.
be like,
Yeah.
Mike Post being like, "Laura was an amazing singer. Anyways, we had a song called Jailbreak." Wait, what? Like we always had something like that would grab your attention of like, "Wait, hold on, what is this?" That by the time that halfway through the movie that the tone changes, like, yeah, we wanted that dread to set in for sure.
yeah, there was never a moment or anything. It was just that almost like uneasy feeling. Like
Mhm.
there's something here, but you're also like, but maybe she's the big surprise too.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Yeah, because Tom, he didn't get shown until what, a good portion to the movie.
and
That was something that Kevin immediately decided before the interview, before we interviewed him. When I had that conversation about us making it a feature, I remember he told me, because I remember telling him like, how would we work that into our story? And he was like, "It's easy. Take it from a 3-act structure and make it a 5-act structure." I was like, "Oh my God, you just solved all of my story problems." And that was what we decided on immediately, was we were like, let's have Tom come in Act 4. Because that way, Tom and Laura's story has a chance to breathe on its own after you've established everything else. So it's almost like you watch the whole story of Halyx and then reset to then see what Tom and Laura were doing.
Yeah.
And then we can resume play on the rest of the story.
yeah, it was kind of nice where we got more or less the whole thing. It's that problem, I guess, where I haven't seen those Fantastic Beast movies. Don't worry, I'm not comparing you to those. But there was something like people loved Neville Longbottom by the end, right? And they want to know what happened.
Mhm.
Like, where did he come from? His story. But then I guess I read, again, this is like secondhand information, but in Fantastic Beasts, like in the middle of one of the movies, you get someone's backstory before you even care about the person. So with this documentary, it's like you get the whole story and then you come in and you fill in, you sprinkle in all the blanks where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I care now. Now I want to hear this, instead of like, wait, what are we talking about? Like, we're like they're off doing their thing, and it's like, no, like now I want to. It's almost like you got a 2-in-1. Like you got the whole thing, and now it's like, now here's the context for everything. And
That's great storytelling.
Yeah.
In all honesty, so.
yeah, he had told me to watch. He's like, dude, you got to watch this Halyx thing. I'm like, what? I don't know, man.
Every single thing that Kevin Defunctland put out, it's like I have the notification. I'm ready to watch it. You know, the day that it's out, and then I saw the trailer.
Did you just see an hour and a half and you just think?
Well, I saw the trailer
What?
and I was like, oh my, okay. If there's a trailer for a new episode coming out, that means there's something there. And then I noticed how the link, you know, I saw the length of it and I was like, oh my God, this is a nice treat. Like I get to watch this over and over too, which I have, and find something new every time because it's so long. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it. But I got hooked on that thing, and so I know we've like spoiled a bunch of it for now. If it still hasn't been spoiled for you, listener / viewer, like pause now, go watch it, and also like, why would you be listening? Like,
this is a bonus feature.
Yeah,
like,
this is a bonus. Yeah, and this is like, it's a real specific thing because we didn't make it a numbered episode.
Yeah.
But and you know, something people could go back to. But what I want to say is like, what was the most, like a little bit heartbreaking, but gave that emotional connection was like, this was like what, 2 or 3 months, right? Like that they were on stage. It
Yeah.
was a summer.
Yeah.
And
2 or 3
there's
months,
like
yeah.
so much here.
Yeah.
And there was like all this potential was here. And it was just like such a, like I also wonder if that's why people really want to tell the story. And they do kind of touch on it where it's like, we put all this work into it. We were gonna, you know, we were demoing the labels and stuff, and it just disappeared. And I think that like flash in the pan is one part of why people were so surprised you want to talk about it. And two,
it's kind of poetic.
yeah, exactly. It's like, this is what makes you want to care, where it's like, wow, this was this really special thing that, like, you know, they were all in the band and then it was gone and they went their separate ways, right? For the most part. And
Yeah. Very, very rarely, like a couple of them like got together and wrote a song or like met up, but like, yeah, really everyone truly went their separate ways.
And yeah, what killed me was, okay, Mike Post was the producer, right?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
the music. He was
And-
the producer behind the music.
Yeah, when he was like, why would I keep any of that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, dude. I have every picture I've ever taken since I had like a Moto Razor in 8th grade.
But
like,
think of 1981.
I know,
Yeah.
but like, it's not like he was over, right? I know they took up physical space,
Mhm.
but it's not like where we used to over tape on
Yeah,
tapes.
yeah,
Like he's a music producer. He's not reusing tapes. You know what I mean? But it's just so like,
It's so bottom on the barrel for him too. When I guess for the other stuff he worked on, I mean, I don't know what else he worked on.
people look at their work
Because I
differently.
mean, everyone in this band worked on millions of things.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
get that.
So
There's just some people who save everything. Like, they're like, oh, I was just watching this
Like-
tape
like
last
Jim
night.
Magon.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jim Magon is that person in that entire project. I mean, all that concept art would have been thrown away by Disney if it weren't for him saving it, which, I mean, technically he probably shouldn't have,
Yeah.
but thank God he did, because it's amazing to see concept art for this crazy Star Wars band, and it's clearly in the style of like Robin Hood and Fox and the Hound,
Yeah.
like exactly of a very specific Disney era, like Black Cauldron and stuff.
You don't have, like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I like having those little ideas. You think Disney's got anything? Someone who's that?
I
For-
know what Disney has.
Ooh.
I have a funny story about that.
You
I have a funny story. Okay, I'm not gonna name names.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not gonna name
look,
any names.
this
Like
anything you're comfortable telling, we're not gonna push anything.
Yeah.
yeah.
Quick question while we're doing
do
that.
it. Sure.
We're not gonna dox them. We're not gonna say. We figured out who Kevin Perjurer is. It's not happening. We're not gonna ask anything. Do you know who he is?
We went down a deep hole.
It was not that. It was pretty.
It was deep for me. You
We know who his name, what he looks like. Don't ask us. We're not telling you. It's not happening. It will not happen. But just, do you know? Like, you know his
Do you
real name and
mean
his.
do you mean who he is or who she is? No. I'm joking.
Oh.
Yes, I've had virgin pina coladas at Trader Sam's with Kevin Perjurer.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like
wow.
I expected you to, but I'm like,
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
mysterious does he try to be? You know what I mean?
Puts on a voice box every time he's on Skype. You
Yeah.
know?
But
Well,
okay.
what's nice about what Kevin does, what I asked him is it's just more the reason why he doesn't show his face is it's more of a humble thing. It's
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
no, I'd rather it be about the work and not about me. And I really admire that about him.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we got that out of the
So
yeah, don't
the
worry.
the Disney conspiracy confirmation stuff. So I have a funny story about that. So without naming any names, so when the movie was done, when it was in this last month of okay, we're gonna do our final finishing tweaks, but we know we're gonna put it out like August 20th of 2020. And we were like, well, we should definitely send out press screeners because no one is gonna know what the heck this is. Kevin's audience is going to be confused. We need to get people writing articles saying this is the best movie ever, which we didn't tell anyone to say that, but pretty crazy that, you know, some very nice reporters were saying it was the best Disneyland documentary they ever saw or like the best movie of the year. That was unexpected. So we sent out these press screeners and one member of the press for a very big local publication wrote back and said, I'm sure you've been asked this many times, which I had not been asked this question by anybody. This person asked me, is this a hoax? Is this satire? Is there any way to prove that this is real? Is this a mockumentary?
Wow.
And I
Whoa,
was
man.
speechless. I was like, how do I answer that? Watch the movie.
Yeah.
like watch the movie and you'll see there's a photo of Roger Freeland getting into a Wookiee costume at like the ripe age of like 25. And then there's him now at like 60. Do you really think we faked that? Like what?
And
So
yeah, like obviously no offense to you or Defunctland, but it's like us. It's like on the one
Like-
hand, YouTube is like here,
Yeah.
but it's also like it's not where I don't know anything Disney's doing. It's like I sent you like just write this article about this thing we're putting on YouTube.
like you think I hired Mike Post with my YouTube independent documentary money to make fake 80s
Well,
music?
it's like faking the moon landing. It would
Yeah,
cost more to
that's what-
fake
Yeah.
it. But anyway,
Yeah.
You're the next Kubrick. I mean,
But-
So yeah. So I was like, and I wrote back an email trying to be like, look, man, like it's real. Like I could give you Bambi Moe's contact, who was like a former vice president at Disney Records. You want to talk to her? Unless you think she's in on it too. She's in on the prank. We're pranking you. Sorry guys, gotcha. So apparently what I found out from an insider is that this reporter went and asked Disney, contacted Disney, hey, like, is this real? Like, did this band Halyx really play at Disneyland for the summer of 1981? And that email turned into a giant thread of it getting passed around to every department at Disney in every branch in every company.
wow.
It went from TV animation, music, like everywhere, the parks, and then finally landed the studios at one point. It finally landed in the archives. I think it might have gone, I could be wrong, because there are multiple archives for multiple different things. I think one archive went and was like, we have no idea what this is. And then the official Disney archives said, yes, we can confirm that this is real. And they pulled out of their archives three things. And keep in mind, this is like the night before this is going live on YouTube.
Oh man.
And we got confirmation that they had the black and white photo that is currently available on Google, because that was their press photo, a review written up in a local newspaper, and their press release that they sent out into some newspapers. And that was it. So everything that you watch in our documentary is all stuff that we saved from being lost to history forever. Disney did not have any of this stuff.
That's amazing. And they keep everything. They keep
and they keep everything.
Yeah.
But it's a weird era. This Halyx thing is such a weird era.
Yeah.
This is like, you know, post Walt's death, pre Eisner, where they didn't care about anything. They were just like, whatever, we need to make money because otherwise we're going to get bought out by another company. And also in a weird era where like people aren't really going to Disneyland and filming and photographing everything the way they were in the first 2 decades. So like, yeah, all this stuff combined together. And then I have a friend who used to do a show with the Disney Archives, who told me that it wasn't until either the late 80s or early 90s or well after Halyx when they got back to archiving stuff. Because during the time of Halyx, all that they were archiving was just nothing. It was just whatever people had left over in their folders. And it wasn't until the time that the archives got started later on that the archivist would go to people in their office and go, hey, don't throw that away, give it to me. So that's another thing that contributes to everything being gone. But interestingly enough, the reason why I mentioned that we found out that information the night before the movie came out was because the only person that remembered what this little guy was called over here, the Wookiee bassist, was I believe Tony was the one. Yeah, Tony says in the movie he remembered that the Wookiee bassist was called the Baharneth.
Baharneth, there you go.
And we pronounced it one way. We pronounced it like Baharnoth, I think. And in the press release, it was written out. It was written out like in the ferocious Bahar, like Neth, like N-A-T-H instead of N-O-T-H. And we thought that was funny because one, we were like, well, official confirmation that we've been spelling it wrong for the past 18 months. And the night before we put this movie out, technically we can change the name right now, which we did. And then
YouTube.
also, and then also it was funny to think that the only band member that has an official name is the one that they were most afraid Lucasfilm would sue them over. If you think about it like that. So yeah, but that's my confirmation of what Disney has.
Yeah, that's kind of in the spirit of the whole story about how Jailbait made it in. Where they're like, it's like, oh, no one really cares what's going on at the Tomorrowland stage. Like no one above is even paying attention, and it's like if they say something, we'll take it out. Like we'll just stop playing it. You know where.
But it's funny that you say that because he literally went to Ron Miller, who was the CEO, and was like, "Can we play Jailbait at the Tomorrowland stage?" And he was like,
yeah, like whatever.
Sure. And he was like, "I don't care." Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it's like even back then you think of Disney's huge now, but you think back then it was big, and it's like, okay, let's trim down to the parks, and then Walt Disney World was open, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like there's the parks, and then there's Walt Disney World with its parks, Disneyland, and then there's Disneyland, and then there's like the parades and whatever, entertainment, and then it's like the stage in front of Space Mountain. It's like no one's caring about that. No one's saving that, and yeah, they're
also everyone in the company is in Florida right now, furiously finishing up Epcot because Epcot opened up the following year. So they're like, oh, we got to build this giant golf ball and the World of Motion and the World Showcase and Jailbait. I don't care. And like, you know, like they had their hands full with that stuff. And that's how you also got Tron, because Tron was being made at the same time that Halyx was performing, where they were just like, we don't care. And so a bunch of young people at the studios were like, well, we all just got hired. We all just got out of art school. So we're going to make something no one has ever seen before. And that's what the Disney Records company was doing at the same time too. They were like, well, let's make Disney Records a legitimate record company. Let's make a band.
Yeah, I read that's kind of what happened with Pirates at World's End. You know, the first scene, they're at the gallows, like they're hanging a kid and all that. People are like, how'd you get away with that? They go, Disney was really busy at the time. They were doing, I don't know what they were busy with.
Sure, whatever.
No, they were just like.
Was that movie written during the writer's strike?
Maybe. That sounds like it lines up.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but they had said like Disney was really busy, and they would just say like just do it without approval or something like that. Like they were just like pushing things through. So they're like, we got that scene in, and that's like the best. Yeah. It's a really good scene, but yeah, it's.
I just remembered I was gonna tell a story about Bambi.
Yeah, I wrote it here. I was gonna ask you later, just in case. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So because I just remembered. So so crazy. She has so many crazy stories from working at the company. She's actually, I'll plug it right here. She's writing a book right now, and I think it should be coming out soon. But it's all about her experiences working at the company, and she has so many crazy stories. Like, she showed me a video that she has like on her personal computer. She's kept it all these years. It was a personal video that, so when Aladdin was being made, she flew out to Ireland and went to the hotel that Robin Williams was staying at with his family, and was like, okay, so they cast you in Aladdin. Here are the genie songs. And she sat in the hotel room and taught him the genie songs and went over them with him and rehearsed them with him. And and when it came to time to record all the songs for the movie, she was there in the studio and she had like a sprained wrist. And Robin Williams made like an 8-minute video where it's just Robin Williams being Robin Williams, and he's just making all kinds of jokes about Bambi's been injured. Like, you know, poor little Bambi has been injured. And it's literally video of someone filming Robin Williams like roasting her, and then pan over to her like sad holding up her sprained wrist. It's crazy.
Oh, that is
It's so cool. And so she told me a story about, because I was like, I can't remember how it got brought up, whether one of us was like, that's so crazy. Like, you know, has your name helped you in any way while you were at Disney? And she was like, well, actually, something really cool that happened was, I remember she was like, I was at the studios, like working on something or whatever. And then I got a call and they were like, hey, they need you down on the EO set. And so she was like, okay. And so she went down to the EO set, and they were like, she was like, okay, you called? And some assistant was there and was like, yeah, someone wants to meet the real Bambi. Someone wants to meet the real Bambi. She was like, okay. And they're like, come this way. And then the assistant takes her to like a trailer and opens the door, closes the door on her. And she's like, there's no one in this trailer. And then the door opens behind her and in walks Michael Jackson.
Oh
and Michael Jackson introduces himself and is like, hi, I heard someone at Disney is called Bambi. I wanted to meet the real Bambi. And they just had like a conversation like on the Captain EO set.
Wow.
That's insane. Oh my God.
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. So she has so many stories like that. And really cool. Something really cool about that book. I'm in the book.
Oh,
So I'm really
wow.
excited. Yeah, she put a mention about Halyx and me in the book, which is really nice.
Dude, Helix lives.
It does.
Now it's in a
Halyx does
book.
live.
So I do have, so we had a couple questions from listeners. So while we're kind of talking
Sure,
about
yeah,
this,
yeah.
I thought this will.
I should go see if I got any questions.
Oh,
I
right.
doubt
Yeah,
that
that's
got
what I
any
was doing right
questions.
now. But so while we're talking about, you know, crazy things you're finding out. So Kimmy writes in, and you've been saying a bunch of surprises, but what was the most surprising fact you learned during your research? Like, or just one you haven't mentioned, I guess, as I'll throw that in
I
there.
have a good one. So I remember an idea that I had was, I thought, oh, you know, what might be funny is to like bring back Jailbait for like a second at the very end. Like, we have this whole emotional ending to the movie, right? And then like to kind of like make everyone like kind of like smile again at the end. It's like, oh, what if we brought back Genie and we like brought back Jailbait? But I had a crazy idea, and we actually laid down vocals for it, where Jeannie Cunningham laid down new vocals for a new cover of Jailbait, and we were gonna recreate the song for 2020. But that did not end up happening, and the reason why it kind of got shot down was because I remember Bambi was like, you know, you should be really looking up like copyrights and stuff to see if like Disney still holds the copyrights to any of the Halyx music. And I looked it up, and sure enough, the only song that Disney still holds a copyright on is Jailbait.
Oh my God.
To this day, like Wonderland Music or Wonderground Music, whatever it's called, still holds the copyright to Jailbait. And we know that it's the Jailbait because Jeannie Cunningham is credited as one of the writers.
Wow. So
Out of every song.
yeah, not only do they not care, it's like it's the
all the
only
songs.
one they held up to. Like,
Yup.
yeah, go
They
ahead.
were like, no, this song's fire. We can't let this slip out of our hands.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, Disney has all the other movie making companies that make, or even like they have FX, right? Which has Always
Yeah.
Sunny. And it's just like, they know it's terrible, but it's like, well, it makes us money. So we just call it FX, leave it FX, put it on Hulu. We won't think about it. It sounds like one of those things. She also wrote in, so I know this is YouTube, right? You can do whatever you want, but are there anything, she wrote any deleted scenes you wanted to include, or is there anything on the cutting room floor? We're going to get the bonus features on the Blu-ray, you know?
What did I include in the deleted scenes? Honestly, the deleted scenes weren't anything too interesting.
Mhm.
There weren't necessarily deleted scenes. There was more
Yeah,
like just trimmings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Something that Kevin told me at the end was, he was like, hey, I know that we cut this movie every way to Sunday, but just reminding you, like, this is your original vision. Like, this is pretty much the same movie as that first cut you sent me, like back in December of 2019. I was like, that is true. But I do know, like, one thing that didn't make it in because it was kind of awkward to fit in, and then one actually deleted scene. The actual deleted scene was just talking about, there was a cut character in the band.
Oh.
And only one person talked about it, and we only had one photo. It was a piece of concept art. But basically, it was Jabba the Hutt before Return of the Jedi was a thing.
Got it.
But they were like, we want to get this big blob monster to like play the clarinet in the background, and they actually made concept art of it, and you could see it. It's in the beginning when you see all the concept art and they're going through the concept art. You can pause on it. It's one of the pieces of concept art, and like Jim was like, yeah, and he's got like little hands, and he'd be playing it, but they didn't want that. And then the other thing that kind of like it would have been awkward to fit in was we did like a second interview with Gary Kreider. We wanted to get some better audio from, and we actually did it during COVID. It was a whole process. I had to drive to Malibu, hand sanitize, wipe down a handy mic, drop it off at his doorstep, call him, and do the interview, like coach him how to operate the mic, do the interview over the phone, and then he left it outside, and I drove all the way back, picked it up, and that was how we did it. So that was how we replaced some of the audio in the movie. But it was funny how during that second interview with him, he mentioned a huge fact that was not mentioned in the first interview, that Halyx was pitched as a movie first. Basically, Gary, and I can't remember the name of the concept artist that he worked with on the Halyx concepts, but the two of them went to Ron Miller and were like, hey, we have this sick idea and we want to make it into a movie. Check this out. And like showed all this art. And Ron was like, well, what's the story? And they were like, oh yeah, we didn't think of that. It was like, so you're pitching me a movie you don't have a story about? Like, no, like it's not going to happen. And so they left and they were like, man, what do we do? And then they were like, well, we're a music studio. Let's make a band. And that's how it came out.
Wow.
It wasn't like initially like, oh, let's make a band. It started off as a movie pitch, which is crazy.
Yeah, and then, we think it's crazy for them to like, oh, they came up with this band and whatever. But then like, think of, when we grew up, it's like Hannah Montana. Before Hannah Montana, like Hilary Duff had music and...
but while I was...
Raven Simone.
Yeah, exactly.
While, right after I watched Halyx, actually, I watched Argo for the first time. And they literally do almost exactly that. They copy Star Wars, or they, they do whatever with Star Wars, and they make a movie to get these people out of the country that they're being held hostage in, and they believed it. So it was a really interesting. Yeah, I don't know, but anyways, it's almost the same thing as Halyx if you really think about it.
Yeah, so it's not that. I mean, who knows? Maybe that was like some light bulb in someone's head. Like, we haven't figured this out yet, but you said. That's kind of where I learned where they were trying to get like the whole Disney Records thing off the ground. And then I remember...
I would like to think, that Halyx started all of that.
It wasn't...
I would like to believe that we wouldn't have a Jonas Brothers, Hannah Montana, all of those acts that came out of Disney if it weren't for them deciding, you know what, let's stop making like little kiddie music and books on tape and book on record. Like, let's try to make a band. Let's make a legitimate band. It all started with Halyx. It was the first one. Yeah,
and then maybe, who knows, maybe they learn like you got to establish something else first. Like I'm just going to go to Hannah Montana because it was like one of the biggest ones. They made the show, and yeah, she was an artist in the show, but then once you got them hooked, hey, we actually sell the record. Right. Now she's in concert, and then the whole, synergy thing people love. And and all that.
It makes you think, like, yeah, like if they came out with a Halyx animated series or a Halyx movie, if they basically did Captain EO but with Halyx, like, yeah, would we still have Halyx now? Would it
Oh,
still
yeah.
would it be like a
Wow.
Kiss where they retire like 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Like,
When did
it's
Captain
weird
EO
to think
come out?
about. Captain EO came out
Like
1986.
86.
1985, the Tomorrowland, the space stage was not mowed down, but a cap was put over it. Literally a cap
Giant
was
cap,
put on
yeah.
top of it.
Oh yeah, we did a new Tomorrowland episode where we just like demolished Tomorrowland and redo it. I'm like, uncap it, bring back the space stage. Let's get
That's
some,
right.
Yeah, let's do some cool stuff there.
Honestly, because everyone talks about like adding more kinetics to theme park lands, but I wish I was there during the time of that, because that's amazing. Having an open air auditorium that's a part of your futuristic Space Mountain architecture is amazing. And the fact that like you could be waiting in line for your ride, looking down at like some crazy space band act, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, like half that episode is just like make everything look like Space Mountain.
Same aesthetic.
Yeah, everything move
Perfect.
around. So
Yeah.
so Frank asks, at first we thought that we made fun of him for this question, but then we realized, no, wait, this totally relates to you making this film. And it's one of those questions that everyone asks, but if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? Or would you do different? Let's go with this, just with this doc. And to us it was immaculate, but
yeah,
I'm sure you're your own worst critic. So
I would go back to, it was either my first or my second interview was with Roger Freeland, and I would whisper in my ear, hey, have him crack out a bass and do a bass solo, just like how he did on stage. Because how I did not ask him to do that, but I had, Brian get on the drums and complain about, how annoying it was to drum for Halyx, or, all of that stuff. Like, how did I not get that footage? But whatever. Hindsight is 2020.
yeah, and who knows? Maybe you would have cut it. Maybe you yourself would have been like,
True.
Well,
Maybe
this is
maybe
cool.
that could have been a deleted scene.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Let me double check to see, because we're bad about checking these. Like we ask and then nothing comes in.
Sadly, I had no questions. I like them.
We should have.
Nobody cares.
He and I should have thought of this
Thought
earlier.
this before, yeah.
But it's like we've been trying to convince people to watch it, and now it's like they are dedicated listeners. So it's like, oh, now I can listen to them talk about this thing. I should go watch this thing.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
yeah. But one of our listeners, Jackson, just said, what? Nice. So guess he's just excited.
Yeah, I hope you're excited. I hope you're listening to this right now and you're stoked.
Yeah. So okay, where was I gonna go with this? The whole like, okay, you had told me something like some super fan made this documentary. What were you talking about? Not made it, but was involved. You just like,
Well, the guy he interviews.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. So that's the other thing I noticed. There was just one fan being interviewed. And I was like, is there only one fan? Or is this guy just a huge fan? So I just want to hear, I know, he's got a personal story. You might like, there's certain things you can't share.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about him. Like how he was to interview. And
dude, well, his name is Rick Demigella.
Rick, right.
He's a cool dude. And he's got an interesting story, because he was, and sorry, Rick, if you're listening to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, he was one of the original founding members of G4 TV.
What? What?
And he was a producer there for like a long ass time. And while he was a producer there, one of his fellow producers was like talking to him one day, and he was like, dude, I've told so many people about this. No one believes me. But one time when I was a kid, the first concert I ever saw was I saw this crazy Star Wars knockoff band underneath Space Mountain at Disneyland. I saw them once, and then I never saw them again, never heard about them again. And everyone I talked to doesn't believe me. It's crazy. They're like, what were they called? He's like, Halyx. And he was like, that's crazy. Well, like, if you find anything about them, we should do a documentary about them. Like this is 10 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And he went and like he says in the documentary, he went on eBay, found the poster, bought it for like $10, and it was the original poster that was like hanging up in Disneyland. And so he was like, cha-ching, it's all mine now. And yeah, funny story about Rick. He was the last person that we interviewed, and I had to convince Kevin, like, hey man, I think this is our cold open for the movie. Because at the time we had tried like 20 different ways to start off the movie, and we could not figure out a good hook for the movie. Because how do you hook people into a movie about this crazy band that they've never heard of without spoiling what the band is? So we needed something else that would kind of hook people to watch through the first minute and a half. So when I talked to him and he said the first band I ever saw was this band, I was like, brilliant, that's it. We have, yeah, there it is. And then boom, we can at the end of the movie show that he has the poster and like tie everything together nicely. So we went over there and we filmed. I remember it was such a weird day. It was such a weird day. Like it was crazy, like the craziest rain I had ever seen in my life. And we were driving up to LA and the traffic was a nightmare. And I remember like we were helping him like huddle the poster in like garbage bags and over jackets and stuff. And we shot the interview and everything went great. And we're like, that's a wrap on Rick. Thank you so much for coming down and interviewing with us. And he gets up and we're taking the mic off of him. And he pulls out his phone and he goes, this just in, Disneyland to close due to the coronavirus.
Wow.
All right.
Guys.
All right.
Guys, that was when we filmed the last interview.
Wow. Yeah, and what's funny is
the timing, like the craziest timing. And so literally all of quarantine, I was editing. Wow. But imagine if I was like, let's postpone for a week.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's just so crazy how the timing works. Like, I kid you not, pulled out his phone and was like, Disneyland's closing. We were like, I think we should all go home. And I remember at the beginning of that day, you know, because at the time, you know, rewind back a year, if you ask anyone about coronavirus, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's a disease over in Wuhan, China. Yep. You know, none of us were like, oh, it's here right now. No, we were all like going out and doing our thing and whatnot. And I remember we were in a Chick-fil-A and it was crowded. It was slammed with people. And I remember we sat at the table and we were like, should we not be here?
Yeah.
Like, is it bad for us to be here? We were asking that at the table. We were like, I think it's fine. But we all were looking around and we were like, this feels bad. This is like the first time we ever felt bad about being in a crowded area.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a really specific feeling where you kind of like, you got your hands out in a way, like figured.
Yeah, you're like cracking out the hand sanitizer, like, hold on, wait a second.
Like suddenly you feel like you're full of germs and whatever. Yeah, and we
started that like around the same exact time, right?
Yeah, like right after the announcement, he was like, hey, we should start a podcast. And I replied, don't you think we should wait like 2 weeks till people are back at Disneyland? And he's like, nah, let's do it now. People are going to be wanting Disney content while they're home. And then like for as long as our podcast has been going, Disneyland has not been open. We have been a Disneyland podcast without Disneyland.
Crazy.
And so that's just like why we have all like just topics that are just like whatever they want. Like we don't do no offense to the influencer thing, but we don't do it. It's like, what's there to do? How many times are we going to film like buying a sweater, you know? Like, and then we got to buy the sweaters.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so what a weird time. Now,
that's crazy.
So speaking of beginnings, Kev, my brother, he says this kind of jokingly, but I'll turn it into a real question. He goes, if I wanted to make a documentary, what's the first step or first 5 steps? But I'm going to turn this into just what was like, you're researching whatever. What would you, maybe the writing process or the planning process? Like, how do you start? Yeah. What's the kernel of, I don't even know if I'm using the right thing. What's the seed? You know, it's like, after you think I'm going to do this, where do you go from there?
Well, the first thing that I do is I kind of make like a Bible of sorts of like knowledge on the topic of like everything that every bit of information I can get on the topic. So when I was making the doc about Remain Seated Please, I wrote as much information down as I could about the ride horizons. And then as I watched their videos, I would be like, oh, at some point, Hoot stepped on something and sprained his ankle. And then I would watch another video and they would be like, and I would think that this video would came before the sprained ankle video. But in that video, they would say, hey man, isn't that where you sprained your ankle? And I'm like, oh, okay. And like just write every little bit of information down that I could about everything about the topic. And so with Halyx, it was literally like, Halyx was a band. And then I did the first interview and it was like, Halyx was a band with a Wookiee bassist. And then I did the second interview. It was like literally like for the first two interviews, there was no information whatsoever because I didn't know what to ask my first two interviews. I was just like, tell me about it. And they were like, well, I remember, we did it and it was in the summer of 81. I was like, okay, great. Like I'll write that down. And then we did another interview and it's like, all right. We did it in the summer of 80. Was it 80? I don't know. By the time it was like the fifth interview in, I was correcting them about information about the band that they were in. Where they were like, I think we played at the Tomorrowland stage. I was like, actually, no, that's the stage that rises up. Yeah. You played at the space stage. Or like them being like, it was 82. I was like, it was 81. But that's kind of how it starts. And then from there, once I have all my interviews, we transcribe all of it and then turn it into a giant, almost like a script. And the way that my brain kind of works is I kind of like take the problem because, like you look at like 100 hours of footage or something like that. And you're like, oh, that's scary. But the way my brain works is like, if I can shrink it and 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 have it be a problem a day, then it's not overwhelming at all. And so I'll take like this problem and I'll go, okay, I need this problem to fit into 5 acts. And then in act 1, at some point, I have to introduce the Wookiee bassist. So let me just focus on everything talking about introducing the Wookiee bassist today. And that'll be my day, is just finding the quotes just for that one thing. And if you do a bunch of those, one day you'll realize, oh, I have an entire script.
Wow. I should not be surprised that the steps to making a documentary are documenting everything, writing it all down. Like, it makes sense. So, wow, that's cool. I should probably apply that to real life.
Yeah.
Start this task, do these things.
Definitely I should. I forget everything.
Yeah, because I try not as much to I don't like in the process of making documentaries, I don't like as much trying to force themes and like an arc and stuff like that like into the interviewing or filming process as much. Because for me it's like, if you have to force it out, then it's not really there. So what I try to grab as much of are like little moments or like things that can be turned into moments later on. So like rather than be like, like ask the drummer like, oh, did you have a falling out with the band or did you have some drama with the band? I'll be like, play drums for us. And then he'll be like, oh, I hated playing this one thing. And I'm like, okay, let's play into that. And like, I'll encourage stuff like that. It isn't until like I have everything where I start to break it down and realize stuff like, oh man, like, well, Laura's the key to all of this. Laura's the heart of this story. Like, it's not until that point where I really start to think of stuff like that. In the middle of the filming of it, I try not to think of that stuff as much. Just trying to get all the information that I can.
That's cool. Yeah, it's like, I'm just starting to see like what it takes. It's funny. I have friends who've made like little short films and stuff, but they don't really talk about it too much. So it's like, getting in the mind of like storytelling, filmmaking, like it's really interesting to me.
I never thought of actual like documentary filmmaking as like, I didn't realize that you can't just Google everything. You know what I mean? Like you actually,
you turn into Google at the end of it. Like you're supposed to be like, I put all this together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so neat.
So
yeah, like I really want to, like now that I've made documentaries on stuff, now there are documentaries that I watch that I'm like, oh my God, I want to have a sit down dinner with the person who made this because exactly what you said, you become Google. Like right now, like in the world, there's no one in the world that knows more about Halyx than me, which is a crazy, like I know more about the band than everyone who was involved in it.
Yeah,
which
because
is a crazy feeling. It's such a weird feeling. Like, yeah, when you said like some super fan made it, yeah, I am a super fan now.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 years ago, I was like, what is this? Like, this is so weird. And then 2 years later, like, yeah, like I'm friends with the people who are in the band and like know more than they do. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Like, but like that, like you ask anyone who is like a writer and stuff. Like, I remember Lin-Manuel Miranda talked about Hamilton, where he was like, you have to be a fan. You have to be a super fan. You have to be a giant nerd, because the second that it feels like it's homework, like it's game over, you know? And like every night that I would sit there and go, all right, time to watch 4 hours of family home video of Disneyland from 1981 to from 1977 to 1985, because maybe, just maybe, someone put this on YouTube and put the wrong year. Who knows? Like that takes a special kind of like passion and dedication. Like not everyone can do that.
yeah,
You know?
and then like, you know, you're gonna be mentioned in Bambi's book, right? So then like that's starting to spread, and we're like nobody, but now like more of this Halyx story is like, well, we're interviewing the guy who made it, and I'm sure you've been on other podcasts, and then you did the thing where the band was together, so it's like I'm sure inadvertently or even on purpose, like there's just stuff that didn't make it in there, and then you know it's the people that go on the deep dives. Like there's gonna be some person who stumbles on this way later, and then they're gonna do their own deep dive on Halyx, and then they're gonna be like, oh, they interviewed the director.
Yeah.
I need more. Does Disney know anything? And then like that one
Dude,
question's
stuff
answered.
like that is already happening. Where we thought that we had scoured the entire internet, we were wrong.
Oh.
Someone on my Twitter, like a few months ago, randomly out of the blue, was like, "Hey, has at Matthew Serrano seen this?" And it was the Helix commercial that we had been looking for
Oh, wow.
almost like 2 years.
Yeah, I thought of this earlier. Totally forgot to ask. Like, yeah, who came out of the woodwork afterwards with more stuff?
Oh my god, I can't remember who it was.
Well,
I re-uploaded the commercial on my personal YouTube channel because it was under a weird name that no one could find, and so I downloaded it. I clipped out just the Halyx commercial and re-uploaded it and titled it like Halyx commercial, and I credited who pointed it out on Twitter and the original YouTube account that posted it. But literally, like I remember so many people involved in the band were like, I don't remember much, but I remember we made a commercial, or I remember seeing a commercial on TV. And like, even, you know, actually going back to what you were talking about are there any deleted scenes? There was an entire deleted scene about the commercial because we didn't have the commercial.
Right.
So like we couldn't, I remember it was down to the last 2 months where I thought, man, I'm really hoping that the commercial just comes out of the blue so I can slip this into the movie somehow, because it's so cool hearing everyone talk about the commercial. And the one funny story that or like two funny stories that I'm sad didn't make it in was one that Bruce like talked about how exhausted he was having to like jump off a trampoline a million times to get a shot. But the weirdest story is just like how Bambi got a call from the office about like going to the Captain EO set. She got a call from down at Disneyland, and they were like, hey, so one of the background singers like hurt herself and she can't come to film tonight. What's your size? And she was like, my size. And she like told them their sizes, and she was like, perfect, you're the exact size of the background singer who hurt herself. Get your ass down to Disneyland. And so she went down to Disneyland, got in one of the background singer costumes. And so when you watch the Halyx commercial, one of the background singers is Bambi.
Wow.
What a deep cut.
Which is such a deep cut.
Yeah.
That, and then also people finding out, this is so crazy, because I remember for like the first like 2-3 months that the doc was out, me and so many people I knew would like scan all the comments on the documentary, like my family, my friends, my girlfriend, me, Kevin, and we would all like message each other like, oh, did you see this comment? Did you see these people commenting this? And because we were just so excited, because like, you know, this movie didn't get to go to any film festivals, it didn't get to play in any theaters. You know, we didn't get a like live audience reaction until we did the drive-in that we held. Right. So we were like excited to see what people were commenting. And sure enough, like people in the comments like found things like the original Hey There Boys, like they found out who wrote Hey There Boys,
Mm.
and they found out the original name of the song and stuff like that, where I'm just like, that is so crazy. Like, yeah, like the deep cuts are already starting to happen, or like the fact that like once a month someone will draw like Helix fan art now is crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's crazy to think that like Helix fan art literally did not exist, and then now there's like tons of Helix fan art because of this documentary. It's nuts.
You never know what kid went home after seeing their first concert and drew back then.
Yeah.
Like things are different now.
Mhm.
But
Totally, because I mean, even back then they knew like, yeah, like we were playing, and then after the show, like these kids would come up to us and hand us bumper stickers with our
Yeah.
characters on it and with the name of the band and stuff like
and
that.
those
So,
hats and like
The hats were cool.
yeah, the
Yeah.
hat, which
Actually, yeah.
I have one back there. Yeah, one of the ones that Defunctland sold.
yeah, it's funny. Like this, I'm sure that somehow this little video we're doing is gonna be part of a deep dive. But then you mentioned your the first documentary you did. Like that's gonna spawn deep dives, right? Like someone's gonna go watch all of that stuff, and
Yeah.
after watching your documentary, and it's just like it's funny how we can do that now, where we all just want to talk to each other about these things, and it's just like it's all
Dude,
out
it's
there.
so crazy. Like, I got a YouTube comment on Remain Seated, Please, where someone told me that apparently, so I, as you can see, I live in Los Angeles, and we don't have any theme parks open right now, but
Mhm.
over in Florida, they're wilding. So they got
Yeah.
all the theme parks open over there, and apparently, over in Wonderground in Florida, which for those that don't know, Wonderground is like Disney's kind of like, hey, we let independent artists like draw Disney stuff and sell their own merch of it in our stores, and we get a cut of it. And they have this one artist who does a lot of their like fan posters right now. Like when, I don't know if you guys remember, like when they did D23 and they made the big Epcot announcement, and they had a whole line of posters. This artist did a couple of those, including like the Kitchen Cabaret one
Mhm.
for that line of posters. But this guy did a Horizons poster, and someone who watched my doc went to meet him at like an artist meetup and was like, "Hey, I love your poster. Um, is that Hoot and Chief?" And pointed at these two guys that are in the poster, or that are in one of the ride cars in the poster, and he goes, "Yeah, it's Hoot and Chief." And he put, and if you look on the shirt, it says Mesa Verde. And he was like, "Yeah, I watched that
Whoa.
documentary, and so I wanted to put Hoot and Chief in there."
Wow.
And so I reached out and I was like, "That's amazing!" Like I was so honored that like my doc inspired like official Disney art. And then he was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna ask Disney if I can make Helix art." Which, like, if that happens,
Oh
I
man.
Yeah,
I will be there every day, like shaking the hand of every person that walks out with like a magnet.
yeah, we love Wonderground. I've got stuff on my walls here, and like, yeah, it's
I was sad when it closed for like a few months. When it turned to the Star Wars Trading Post.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of my friends got me. It was like a postcard poster, and there's like only one print of it in existence, and I'm like, why do you have to do that? Why do things have to be this way? Like the one in existence.
Yeah, come on.
So let me do one last pass to see if people wrote in, just so like, cause I'm gonna feel bad,
Sure,
right?
sure,
But we'll have some like little closing thing. I don't. Do you see
and
anything?
I'll
No,
send you
I'm good.
guys right now on the Instagram. I have a picture and a screen cap of the Horizons art, so you can see it's crazy.
Let's check it out.
I grab it. How long ago did I grab it? Where is it?
Dude, it's funny how.
I feel like an old person. Like,
Dude, we're getting there.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel that way. Like, where is it? How do you flip the camera? That was us a
yeah,
few times.
right.
Flip the camera. What are you talking about?
No, remember we were like at downtown Disney. I'm like, how do you turn this around? And
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
not.
yeah.
how we-
It's a double tap, dude.
No, it wasn't working on my phone.
Oh, because it's Android.
Stop it.
Did you just do something about having an Android?
Whatever. was gonna say you don't have. I mean, you have everything.
What?
I don't know. You don't have Google Assistant.
Yeah, I do.
You get the app,
I have the Google app,
but it's the
and
app.
it annoyingly sends me notifications.
I just do
every
this.
day
Here it is.
now.
All right, let's
So,
check this out. You
yeah.
could put this on the screen later if you remember.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you look, yeah, the art is amazing, and if you look, the guys on the right are Hoot and Chief. Like it's very clearly when you watch the documentary,
Wow,
you can very clearly tell it's them. And then yeah, he has Mesa Verde on his shirt.
Wow.
that is awesome.
Yeah, it's funny how just like I know it's like approved fan art, but like fan art leads has other things like I was a fan of this, so my fan art has extra stuff in it, and then you just get that, you know, the webs people love to go through with the deep dives. So, do you have any? We have a couple more things. Do you have any questions? Any last things you're like?
I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, the documentary was amazing. Documentary was amazing. It is like I said, you know, with Defunctland, I am a big fan. I love listening to and watching everything over and over and over. And now I had no idea about the other documentary you made. And after this, I know exactly what I'm doing.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yep.
On that note, I know that this isn't why you're here. You're not like a clout chaser. Not that we have any clout to give you, but while we do have you here, is there anything else you want to plug or something you may be working on you want to let people know or that kind of thing? Like,
well, I wrapped up another documentary with Kevin. It's not a Defunctland project. It's a passion project of Kevin's that he's been working on, and I finished the movie for him. Like he hired me on as an editor, was like, here's a mess of a movie, finish it, fix it, help me out. And we're pretty proud of it, and we're gonna try to take it to some festivals, so you might be hearing about that soon.
Nice.
I may or may not be working on a secret Defunctland project that is coming out very soon, like within the next month. And I mean, I've got nothing really to plug except if you go on Instagram, I have a bread making Instagram now that I've been doing for fun, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's called NoHo Dough. That's NoHo_dough. Check it out if you're in like the local North Hollywood, LA area. Get some bread.
All right. And so yeah, you could put some stuff on the screen.
Oh yeah.
His little thing. But one last thing. We'll finish off with we have two things we do at the end of our episodes. They'll just be little quick ones. We do also want to tell you we love Tomorrowland so much that our little news jingle is a little
I'm just gonna sit back and just imagine that I'm there right now.
So
imagine that I'm 5 years old again, vibing out, waiting in line at Star Tours outside.
On that perfect note, we had it so good. So we had it so good is a segment in which listeners, members of the Tram fam, write in about things they missed about Disneyland, usually in the past week or in general. But now we got you. No one wrote in because they didn't know this was really happening. So let's go with lately, or anything you want, really. But what's that thing that's just been swimming around in your head? Like, I need to do this at Disneyland, or I wish I could do this today, or
because of the fact that it's closed.
Yeah,
like what's currently at Disneyland that
like we had it so good. Like, what's something that feeling you miss having, or something that's just like, oh, this week, like the rain reminded me of the wet bricks on Main Street, like that type of stuff.
Right,
you know?
right. Oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. Literally, me and my girlfriend Bree, like every day, we're like, I wish that Trader Sam's was open.
Oh, okay.
Every day, and that is something that like I wouldn't necessarily that one hurts, because that is one that like every time that I was there, I knew how good I was having it.
Mm.
It still hurts. It still really hurts. For a while, it was that, and it was missing Hogsmeade over in Universal Hollywood for some reason. Just like being like, oh, I wish I could hear that music again and walk on those cobblestones. And then doing the Taste of Universal event was so nice to be back in there again. But yeah, right now it's definitely Trader Sam's for sure.
I have a quick question. If you had to choose between one of these drinks, butterbeer or blue milk?
Oh, butterbeer.
Butterbeer, okay.
Butterbeer.
I got it.
All right.
No contest. No
All right.
contest at all. Blue milk it's trash.
Ooh.
It is. Yeah, I'm putting the word down right here. It is a melted candle in a drink that they had the balls to sell at the same price as butterbeer, which is liquid gold.
It literally is, right?
The actual best thing ever of all time.
Wow.
Regular or frozen? Or hot?
It depends.
Oh,
Depends.
okay.
It really does depend, because like if the straight up just cold butterbeer, great with a meal.
Right.
Great with a meal. If it's really hot, like I know that it's not as bussin' as cold might be, but you know what? Frozen still hits. Honestly though, like if I had to really say like what is objectively the best one, I would probably go with the hot one. The hot one is amazing. If they close all Starbucks, and they were like, look, all Starbucks are closed forever and they're replaced by one hot butterbeer, I would be fine with that. But like here's the I could go on a rant for an hour about how much I hate blue milk, but let me just say this. Butterbeer was amazing already when it first came out. And I think when it first came out, they already had the frozen option, but now it's like a fudge, now it's an ice cream, now it's a hot. You can't turn blue milk into anything else other than what it currently is, or do what they did, which is blue milk, but more expensive, taller, and with a cookie on top. So sorry, blue milk stands.
Sorry, blue milk.
So I won't say it on here, but I have a personal Instagram that I just DM'd you. Go click on it real quick.
Oh God, I'm scared. Okay, I'm clicking on it.
So at some point, I realized I have a Disney Instagram, right? And I was like, I don't take pictures of anything. Instagram's a joke these days.
Follow it.
Everyone's just like, trying to sell me some movement watch or whatever. No, I don't want to share like private parts of my life.
I'm so threatened by the energy of this Instagram. It's like you made this Instagram right now as I was on blue milk.
So
like,
yeah.
What did you just say? What did you just say?
It's so perfect. Your answer was spot on.
Let me put my blue milk down. Let me put it down for a second. What did you just say?
Yeah, it's all blue milk. It's only blue milk except one picture, but the next picture will be blue milk. And it's the day I step foot in Disneyland, I may go to the milk stand first.
Oh yeah?
See.
Come on.
Well, no, let's be real. I'm gonna go on Space Mountain first or something like that. But blue milk will be had before the end of that day, and there will be a picture.
Honestly, like I was so open to blue milk being whatever it was, but I gotta say, like I'm a bit biased because I remember when I saw the announcement for like the food that was announced for Galaxy's Edge, I remember seeing that it was supposed to be like a rice milk fusion, and instantly I remember me and all my dumbass friends were like, oh my God, it's gonna be horchata. Like it's blue horchata. Dude, let's go. That's amazing. And like I remember I tweeted about it. I was like, man, the blue milk should have just been blue horchata. And everyone was like, yep.
I
agree. I thought it would be ricier. What's funny is though, I didn't like it the first time. And then I had it again. And that's when I was like, oh, I like this. It's weird because it is weird. But I get it. That's weird. That's the thing. Like I don't get offended. One of my friends, Jay at True Road Journeys, he hates it. And he's like, oh, sorry. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like what does it matter to me? They're not getting rid of it. And they do have like they had the green milk with chamoy and
there's
mango.
Chamoy?
Oh yeah.
What?
No, and they put tahini on top.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I
feel like weirdly like the ethnic side of me like enjoys blue milk. Like something about it, like I don't know what it is, like something about it like being like funky and almost tasting bubblegummy, like the Salvadorian aspect of me is like, oh, that's just like cola champagne, like which is like the national drink of choice in El Salvador, and it tastes like bubble gum. But I don't know. It's just it does not stand up to butterbeer.
Huh.
I still haven't tried it. I'm going to. I'm looking for it.
You haven't tried it?
He has. Nope.
I'm a big fan
you
of.
can walk into City Walk for free and try it.
I need to drive an hour to City Walk and then walk in the City Walk and try it.
I will drive you
worth
myself.
it
It is.
That's an event, especially for your Instagram now.
Yeah.
No, it's not blue milk. It's not happening. It'll go on the story. That's for sure.
I feel like I need to make a Butterbeer account now.
Just go and just tint the entire screen blue, and no one will question it.
I will go. I'm a huge fan of Harry Potter. I was like Harry Potter twice for Halloween in elementary school.
Nice.
But yeah, it'll happen. So we normally do a segment called One Last Bite, but that was definitely
one last bite.
That was it. That was our one last bite.
Wait. Now I want to play one last bite.
Okay, all right, fine. We'll do one last bite. So one last bite is everyone loves talking about food, right? So it's like usually we end the podcast sad that we're not in Disneyland. So I'm like, let's go back up.
Right.
So there's always two questions. And the first question is, it's a two-parter. What's the best food you ate this week and the best sweet you had this week?
Ooh. Oh, man. I really have to think about this. What was the best food? What was the best sweet? Oh, shoot. I'm like really racing through my brain. It's so weird that you asked me that when like yesterday I started a diet.
So you should be reminiscing about the 6 days before that when everything was great, right?
Oh my God, I should be. Oh, you know what? I think this was within the last week. I went down to the old LA Farmers Market that's at the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the name of the stand. It's fairly new, but it's like an authentic Nashville hot chicken sandwich stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the Nashville hot chicken sandwich and it was amazing. And I also got it with some fried mac and cheese balls that were incredible because
that sounds great.
It wasn't just like, oh, like here's mac and cheese like coated in like breadcrumbs. Like the cheese oozed out in the frying process. So there's like caramelized cheese like around the surface as well. Whoo! That was really good.
That's nice.
And I'm trying to think of like the best sweet that I had this week. Oh man, I don't know if it's close enough. Honestly, what was really surprising, I know since you said you're going to Taste of Universal.
I went yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have the bread pudding that was in the Harry Potter land?
Yeah, the sticky toffee bread pudding.
It was pretty good.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
It was surprisingly good.
Yeah. It was great. My girlfriend had a little
looking
piece.
at it and like seeing like all like the unmelted like butterscotch chocolate chips. I was like, get out of here. This looks stupid. And then our friend got it and was like, try it. And we're like, okay. They were like, wait, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. But with that and the butterbeer, it was a little much because it was like sweet, but it was still really good, really good.
Especially because the butterbeer inside the park is so much better than the one that they had at City Walk.
Oh, really? I haven't tried the City Walk one.
The City Walk one is good, and I remember like having it and thinking like, yes, this is just how I remember. And then when we went for Taste of Universal, we were like, we have to have butterbeer in the land.
Yeah.
And when we had it there, we literally were like all falling back in our chairs, like, no, wait, this is how it was this. So not downplaying the City Walk experience. It's still butterbeer. It's still delicious, but like it's that extra level of good in the park.
You gotta go, man.
I know. I'll go.
You gotta go.
All right. What was the best thing you had this week, Rain?
Food wise?
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to save some of it for the next episode.
Yeah, I know.
But just name something great.
Something great I had this week was what we just ate. That Mediterranean food was great, man. I picked it up over here. Some kebab.
Where was the place? Shout it out.
Georgie's Mediterranean. It's in
what city is it?
Covina,
Okay.
California. Yeah.
Off of the 10, right?
Yeah, I'm right off the 10. Amazing Mediterranean. There's one off the 210 also in Glendora. So, and the best sweet I had, which I surprisingly really liked, my girlfriend did not at Taste of Universal, was the Minion pudding.
Oh, I heard it was good.
It was good. It was banana pudding.
I heard it was good. I was disappointed by the chicken nachos at the Minion Cafe. Gotta say.
Oh, really? I had the meatball
and the mac and cheese.
You don't like the mac and cheese? My girlfriend was like in love with it.
No,
I'm
we were
not easily
It was
impressed
not
by mac
cheesy.
and cheese. It's like,
Yeah, it wasn't cheesy. It didn't even
Yeah,
really
no,
remind
it's
me
gotta
of
be
mac and
good.
cheese.
That's why I'm telling you the mac and cheese balls at
Yeah.
that place.
Mm.
oh no, crusted
Because
cheese
it
is
was
like,
cheesy.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
cheesy. Like the mac and cheese at the Minion Cafe was not cheesy. But
No.
are you saying that you like the meatball sandwich?
The meatball sandwich was great.
See, both my girlfriend and my friend that were with me were making fun of me for wanting the meatball sandwich. They shamed me out of getting it. And
It was great.
everything that they got was
hey, look,
bad.
look.
That is the first thing I'm going and telling them
It's-
right now. Is like, you guys were wrong. I knew I should have gotten the meatball sandwich.
It's surprisingly easy to make meatballs, and you're baking bread. There you go, man. Forget the minions.
Forget
Make
the
it.
minions.
Do it.
The key to sometimes the key to getting good theme park food is going for the stuff that come on, you can't mess this up. But also that can be wrong too, because burgers and pizza at Disneyland are terrible.
Yes. Okay. We did a worst
Terrible.
foods of Disneyland episode. What is the worst place to buy food?
Like, can it be a cart? Can it be like a restaurant?
We chose a restaurant.
Mhm.
The
Oh,
worst
okay. What was your guys' pick?
Pizza Planet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, pizza.
There it
Planet.
is.
Yeah,
This is why
100%.
this is why he's here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that and
Dude,
people were like, "That's my favorite."
The second,
And I'm
oh,
like, "Whoa, what?"
full offense to anyone who says that. The second that someone says Pizza Planet is their favorite, I'm like, oh, I know someone I should not go to Disneyland with because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you are talking about.
Yeah, when people say like, "Oh, Disneyland's food is expensive and not good," I'm like, "You're definitely getting burgers and pizza at Disneyland if that's what you're saying." Like, there's so many other things. Why would you do that?
Yeah, you're telling me that you're complaining over here about spending $13 on a pizza slice. Meanwhile, I'm over here spending $13 on an incredible bread bowl with amazing clam chowder and gumbo. Like, you're not doing this right.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Yeah, you spent
your fault.
$13
It's not
on
the park's
pizza.
fault.
Like, come on.
You're the sucker. Like, man, one of the best things I have ever had at Disneyland, and they only did it for Halloween, but over by this is so sad. I am starting to forget the names of restaurants inside of Disneyland because it has been so long since I've said any of the names out loud. But Harbor Galley, the one that's the little one right across from Haunted Mansion. For Halloween, they sold like a crawfish Creole, whatever it's called, broil. But it was the craziest thing. Like, if you saw it, you'd be like, they're selling that at Disneyland. They gave you like a bag, like a plastic bag, and it was just full of like corn on the cob, andouille sausage, shrimp, potatoes, like all these random things in a big Cajun broil, and it was incredible. It was amazing, so good.
Look this up.
Wow.
Oh my God, yeah. And I tell people, they don't believe me, and it was only there for like just the Halloween season, and I got it every time that I went because I knew, I was like, they're probably never going to bring this back. But this is the best thing I've ever had.
I think if you tell someone this thing was at Disneyland for only so long, they should believe you. I think you're an authority on things that were.
Yeah. You know what? You're absolutely right. They should.
Like, do you want me to make a documentary about this? Because I can't.
You know what? If I say that I want the meatball sandwich at the Minion Cafe, people should listen to me too. You hear that downstairs? No.
If you need a person to interview, let me know. Let me know. I'll gladly do it.
Yeah. What did I eat? You know what's funny? I love the food. Thank you for bringing that. Spicy hummus was crazy good. But I feel like I haven't had raw fish in forever, and I got like this ahi poke weird disc thing at Yard House with like edamame and like seaweed and like little crispy wonton and avocado and cilantro, and it just hit the spot. Like, just that soy, light tuna, whatever. Yep. And then I went back to that Paderia place, which I know OC, so you're not going there. You're probably not going there, but white chocolate macadamia nut cookie.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sounds good.
So I figured it out. Every time I walk in there, it smells like croissants. They don't make croissants. Well, the cookie was still hot, and I cracked it open. The cookie smells like a croissant, which just means that one cookie has a stick of butter in it. For sure.
Oh, jeez.
That was the best sweet.
Yeah.
Really
you know,
good.
I can actually tell you, the place that I had the worst food at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll take it.
And it's really random, but like it just entered my head, so I had to look up what it was. It's right next to a place that is, in my opinion, one of the best places to eat at Disneyland, which is honestly the Wine Country Trattoria.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Italian food, and it's amazing Italian food. Great place to go to take someone on a date. But literally right next to it is a place called Sonoma Terrace, and it has the worst food I've ever had. I've eaten there once, and I had wings. The wings were the saddest microwave, like so clearly microwaved, soggy. They were soggy. They were like wet,
Oh,
like water soggy, like nasty, nasty. And then same with this meatball, the sad excuse for a meatball sandwich that was like wet. Like it literally felt like they took an already bad meatball sandwich and already bad set of wings and poured a little bit of water on each of them and then tossed it in the microwave. And we're like,
Oh,
here you
man.
go.
oh, that's
It was
bad. That's bad.
And-
bad. Right next to an amazing restaurant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and what's funny is
Yeah, those
some of the
garbage.
best wings I've ever had were by the Eureka Wheel at Touch of Disney, but they were the wings from Trader Sam's apparently. And
Right.
they're like,
Which those wings are fire.
yeah. See,
Sorry,
we know.
sorry,
You-
I was too full.
You don't know. Kimmy
Yeah.
doesn't know. She's not gonna know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, Trader Sam's wings are fire. I'm going to Touch of Disney in I think like 4 days, 4 or 5 days.
Mm.
And I'm 100% putting some of my tasting card on the wings because I miss those things. They're amazing. The dipping sauce,
Yes,
like that aioli,
I couldn't believe it.
incredible.
I was like, what? It even
That
better?
was your first time?
Yeah. I was like, oh, these
Oh my
wings are
God.
so good. I'm like, what's this Togarashi aioli? And I dip it in. I'm like, oh.
You even wanted
Oh,
to talk
dude.
about this so bad.
Yeah,
have
dude.
you not had food at Trader Sam's?
No,
before?
I've had-
Trader
What
Sam's
did you
great.
have?
No,
Yeah.
no, I've had like the panko spam musubi,
The pulled pork sandwich.
uh,
Oh,
the pork, what is it? Poutine,
The
some
pulled
like
pork platter?
dumplings. Yeah.
one of the most violent acts that Disney has ever committed was getting rid of the fried spam musubi.
Yes. Yes. I
Who
went with,
told them to get rid of that? That was, if you went to Trader Sam's at any point in its history, every single table had that on its table. Did they suddenly decide, we want to make less money? Like what? Who made that decision?
I once went there because one of my friends wanted to try it, and I saw that it wasn't there, and we left.
Are you hearing this, Trader Sam's?
I left Trader Sam's and I had a table just like waiting for me. I was like, you know what? I don't need this today.
It says
And I went
something.
somewhere else.
Says
Yeah.
something.
But yeah, definitely get the wings. I was disappointed by the banh mi, but the pork belly is like my favorite thing. So I'm hoping they just messed mine up. Everyone else can have it. If you drink, there's a honey bourbon lemonade, and it's spectacular. I don't like
Sounds
bourbon,
really good.
but the honey just does something to it. And
The Monte Cristo was great.
yeah,
as usual.
he's the Count of Monte Cristo right here. And
Look, I love that.
and what else? People were blown up over the waffle. It was,
It was
a waffle,
great.
or pancake. I don't know.
It was just a Mickey waffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do have Bengal barbecue stuff at Cocina Cucamonga, and some
Which I am
tacos.
tempted to get.
Yeah, and
I am tempted to get it while I'm there.
I got there at 12, so I ate lunch and then I ate dinner later at Lamplight. But like, yeah, definitely you can fit a couple meals in there.
Which also, I was gonna say, another place that does great wings at Disney is Lamplight Lounge.
Oh, the lollipops, the pork. Are they wings or the stick with the meat on it?
No, like not right now, but like they had on their menu, like their normal menu, like wings, and those
Huh.
are really good too.
Never.
I've never
Well,
had them. Yeah.
I guess we'll.
It's basically it's an entirely different flavor than the Trader Sam's
Mhm.
wings, but it's the exact same like wing.
Crazy
quality
good
and
wings. Yeah, I couldn't
texture,
believe it. Like,
which they are fat. Those are fat.
They
wings.
looked fat. Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna post a picture the presentation of,
Yeah. Of the wing.
or as you said, presentation of size.
Yeah.
anyways, I think that's all we've got. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is like
This is a
crazy
blast.
fun. Yeah, this is crazy fun.
Yeah.
And it's like we barely talked. You're a storyteller. Like this is all about you. I'm glad we separated
Thanks,
this.
man.
Glad we separated this out. No news, no corrections, none of that stuff. And yeah, so we're real happy to have you. We'll put for all the listeners all his links. Find links to the documentaries and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Put it
Oh, yeah.
all there. And do you have any last comments that you want to share with us, with them?
Just like, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. This is super fun.
Oh,
I had
yeah.
a really, really good time. And it just reminds me of like how much I miss just like vibing out and just chatting about just theme parks with people.
Hey, maybe we,
I feel like we're very close to getting back to that soon.
Yeah. I can't wait.
We're so close. And hey, maybe there's a Trader Sam's episode in the future. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Let's go.
But
yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much, Rain.
Thank you guys.
Don't botch the outro. Let's do it.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you real soon.
Bye.
Bye.